نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ثم ما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدى هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We continue, Barakallahu fikum, wa nasallallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala tawfiq. We continue and ask Allah for His blessings and for His success. And Nubtat Psalm, the Imam Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen. Nubtat Psalm means penetrating the issue of Psalm, the issue of fasting, not getting all of the details, not going too much in great lengths, just scratching the surface. The last place we left off, we mentioned وَلَا يَجِبُ عَلَى الصَّبِي نَعْمُ وَلَا يَجِبُ عَلَى الصَّبِي. Sabi means the child, we said, that has not obtained the age or the time of puberty, because there's not a certain age for puberty necessarily. There is and there's not a certain time, meaning if the child reaches 15, then that's a certain time. But children can go into puberty before then, and they go at different times. So the Shaykh, he mentioned that the fasting is not upon the child that has not obtained the age of puberty. And we mentioned the hadith of Ibn Umar when he asked the Prophet ﷺ to go out in the battle, and the Prophet told him no. And in that particular hadith, Ibn Umar was 14, and then the next year he came and he asked the Prophet for the permission to go out in another battle, and at that time he had obtained the age 15, and the Prophet told him yes, it was okay. And that is because it is not okay for children to participate, those who are not in puberty, things such as the Ghazwa expeditions, and likewise the issue of fasting is not upon them, and the other acts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for the adults. So this is one of the proofs they use to show 15 is the age if nothing else has transpired, such as the wet dream, the pubic hair, or for the female, the bleeding for the monthly menstruation. The Shaykh also mentioned the Majnun la yajib alayhi sawm, the one who is insane. It is not upon that person to fast, whether it be temporarily insane or permanently insane. وَلَا إِطْعَامَ عَنْهُ إِنْ كَانَ مَاذَا وَلَا إِطْعَامَ عَنْهُ إِنْ كَانَ كَبِيرًا. And that person who's insane, he doesn't feed the individual if he's the age of puberty, because you have someone that's insane who's not the age of puberty and someone who reached the age of puberty. So the one who has reached the age of puberty, fasting is upon him. But because he's insane, then it's not upon him. Neither should he feed somebody like the one that the Sheikh is going to mention from the other categories. ومثله معطوف الكبير يعني this kabir here, the older person, mudhiri, they call it mudhiri. This person is like the one who, Allah musta'an, he has Alzheimer's. This person, he's above the age of puberty, and he's kabir, meaning he's not a child, and he's not necessarily kabir here, meaning up in age. It's kabir is used for seniors, elders, people up in age. It's also used to distinguish between someone who's minor rather than an adult. So because the Sheikh was talking about Majnun, he had to talk about those who are similar in that ruling. He mentioned kabir, the one who's has some age on him. He's mudhiri. Mudhiri mean he's like senile. He has Alzheimer's. So that person fast is lifted from him as well. and that person does not feed a person like the one who would feed who is pregnant and or breastfeeding. Then the Shaykh said that ajis an siyam bisabab da'in, the one who cannot fast. Ajis means you're unable to. So here, because the one he is sick, he has some type of ailment that will prevent him, that will prevent her from fasting, then these people do not fast. So we mentioned the example of the Sheikh. He mentioned the one, he has a sickness, and that person is not going to come back from that sickness. The one who is sick, or the one who is unable. Unable could mean because of being feeble. Some people up in age, they're strong. They can still fast. Other people, they're up in age, and with that old age, they have a weak body. So he can't fast. Then that person, because he's unable, then it's not upon him to fast. That one who is not able is not upon him to fast. And likewise, the one who's sick, waiting in his sickness, but will never be returned to good health. And we know that from he said, وَلِكُلِّ دَاءٍ دَوَاءٍ, كما قال, an authentic hadith, that there's a cure for every sickness. This is what the Prophet said. But in some cases, you're talking about sicknesses that once you're sick with them, you won't be cured. And this is not the Prophet's statement to be taken all across the board, as you have in the religion something called mutlaqan. That means absolute. Then you have muqayyad, something that's restricted. So the statement of Prophet for every sickness there's a cure, this is not ala itlaq. Because, for example, you have some sicknesses that there's a cure, but Allah didn't send it down yet. So he himself has the cure, but he has to release it. So for those sicknesses that the cure has not been released by Allah, Allah has not allowed someone to have the knowledge of that, then there's no cure for that. But those that Allah has revealed, then there's cures for those sicknesses, and for every sickness there's a cure. The knowledge of their cures with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So we do have sicknesses that they have not been given the cure from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala yet. Or there is some cure and people don't believe in that cure, because we have people that disbelieve in the natural ways of curing things. They only put their trust, walayadu billah, in the pharmaceutical industry. They only put their trust if the affluent, vibrant, up-to-date society say that this is a cure. But if Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, He sends something, if Allah Azza wa Jal sends down something simple, something that is in the earth, something that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has blessed mankind to bear witness that it's a cure for a particular sickness, then they won't accept it. So for those that have sicknesses such as cancer, and we know cancer eats through the body. Once it starts to eat, there's no returning back from that, unless you catch it early. If you catch it early with certain remedies and certain herbs, then you could come back from it, or you could, mashallah, tabarakallah, prolong the good that's in the body and reduce the ill effects of the cancer. So here, if someone was stricken with cancer, they go in this category. We say their health won't come back, because normally people don't have a cure for that. If someone has a cure for that, then this is a particular situation. But what we know, cancer normally eats away. So for that person, once it gets to a stage where there's no return, then that person would not be able to fast. That's one example of siyam. He's not able to because of a sickness. Or as we said, someone has a feeble body, up in age. They can't do it. They have to eat, they have to drink, they can't take a lot of stress. They have heart conditions. Fasting would produce all of those things that are negative for them. So for them, fasting is lifted from them, as the Sheikh is mentioning. And for those people, what do they do? What does those people in that category, the one who is not able to begin with, or the one who's stricken with the sickness that his health won't return, where he or she will be allowed to fast? What do? Do they make those days up? Of course not. Because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has made that for the ones that can make those days up at another time. So for them, they have to feed somebody for each day. So the ruling here is twofold. As long as you have the ability at another time to make those days up in fasting, then that's what's upon you. If you don't have the ability to make those days up at another time, then that's when you have to feed a person for every day that you miss, that which is equivalent to what you would feed yourself, a regular size portion or more like this. And many people get this mixed up when you talk about the issue of breastfeeding and the issue of pregnancy and so forth. But we need to make sure we understand, if the person is not able at all, then that person does not have to fast. But the feeding is on that person. And if that person has a sickness that won't allow him or her to fast, then that person must feed for each day that he didn't fast a needy person the proper amount that we mentioned before concerning the meals. And the Sheikh he mentions next, that his sickness is a sickness that's lengthy, but he is waiting for his health to return. A person can have the flu and be down for the whole month of Ramadan. That means he's not going to be able to fast. But is he going to have flu the rest of his life for 50, 60, 70, 80 years? What kind of flu is that? No. So while he's waiting to recover, the moment he recovers and he gains enough strength and his body is well enough to take on the task of making up those fasts, those days of fasting, the days of fasting, and that one has to fast. He cannot say, well, I'm just going to feed some people. There's not ikhtiyar bayna hada wa hada. Ikhtiyar, a choice. Well, I would like to feed the people. I don't feel like making up the days. No, you can't do that. If you have the physical ability, and that includes that your health will allow you, you have to make those days up. فَإِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ, as Allah said, Surah Al-Baqarah. Then you make up the fast in another number of days. But if that person is like the first category, has a sickness that won't return back his health, then that's when he feeds. So the one who has a long-term sickness, but he expects to recover, he makes up those days. Naam, and after he's sick, the Shaykh he mentioned again, reiterating, وَيَقْضِي يَعْنِي بَعْضَ مَرَضِهِ. Then he makes up the days after he has become well. Naam. And the one who's hamil al-murdi. Hamil al-murdi. Hamil, the one who's carrying the baby. She's pregnant. Murdi, the one who is she's breastfeeding. So if that lady who's pregnant, as well as the breastfeeding lady who's not pregnant, we put them in two categories, because we know a lady could get pregnant soon after she has a baby and then be breastfeeding and pregnant. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about pregnant by itself, breastfeeding by itself. Two different rulings. The one who's hamil, she's pregnant, then that one, if she fears a danger for herself in the pregnancy with fasting, or she feels or fears a danger, foresees a danger for the child that's in her stomach, and she is allowed to break her fast. If she sees that I can fast, although I'm pregnant, I just have to eat a good breakfast, drink a lot of fluids, and I'll be okay, then she can fast. But if she feels it's too much for me during this pregnancy, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to be throwing up. I'm going to probably pass out. I'm going to get very weak. The baby's already taken a lot from me. Then she breaks her fast. She breaks her fast. And for the lady who's breastfeeding, if she fears some type of problem, danger for herself or the baby, what could be a danger for the lady? The issue of being engorged. And when the breasts are engorged, they become so full with milk. But because the baby is not suckling, then the milk dries up. And one of the things that will make the baby not suckle is because the mother is not eating or drinking. As breastfeeding requires intake. The mother must drink and eat certain vegetables, certain fluids to keep the milk flowing. If she doesn't, then the milk will dry up. She will become in severe pain, and the baby will be one who can't get the milk out. So this is a harm for her and a harm for the baby. So she fears that this will happen as a result of her fast, and she is allowed to break her fast. Either fear for herself as a pregnant lady or the baby, either fear for herself or for the baby as a breastfeeding mother allows her to break her fast. And for that lady, barakallahu fikum, there's a difference of opinion whether or not she should feed or make those days up. Some say feed because the issue of pregnancy, the time it takes to heal and so forth, the body, it causes a difficulty for the lady. And others say if she's able to, after the pregnancy and after the baby is weaned, then she can make up the days. But some say to feed because babies sometimes are not weaned for a whole 2 years, and you're to meet Ramadan again before that time elapsed. So for her, she feeds. And if the pregnant lady, after she has the baby and she goes through the period post-birth bleeding and she's healthy enough before Ramadan, then she can make up her days. But if she's going to give the birth and then start breastfeeding, then likely she won't be able to make up those days as well, perhaps. So many go to the position she just feed each day that she missed. The next thing the Shaykh mentioned, al-hayd wa nifas. Hayd, menses. Nifas, after the baby is born, bleeding, which sometimes takes 6 to 8 weeks. Bleeding, sometimes it has been reported more than that with complications. 12 months, 12 weeks, which is equivalent to around 3 months of bleeding after having babies. So these two, the fast is something that stops when she starts to bleed from either one of those, the menses blood or the post-birth bleeding. Then this stops the fast of the lady, nullifies the fast. Fast is not upon her at that time when the blood comes from either menses or from the post-birth bleeding. And the general ruling for them is that they make up that which they missed of the fasting. Again, if they're not able to, because of complications, because of sicknesses, because of, as we mentioned, being pregnant back to back and breastfeeding and pregnant, and it will cause a harm to both babies or to herself, she feels, then she feeds. If she's able, then she makes up the days, that lady who is breastfeeding. And for the lady who is post-birth bleeding, then this is a separate ruling, but sometimes it overlaps with the issue of pregnancy and breastfeeding. So for that lady who's bleeding, post-birth bleeding, then she should make up her days. And for the menses lady as well, she should make up her days, making up the days rather than feeding. Now, and the one that has to break his fast because of nearly drowning or being burnt. The one who يعني حصل غرق أو حرق, and he experienced close to drowning, or the one has been burnt, then this obviously the person does not have to fast. For a person who almost drowns, Allah is going to need some care. Water is going to go obviously in the mouth, down the throat, fill up the places like the lungs. He's not responsible for that. That person fast is broken, and he does not have to continue that fast. And the one who's being burnt, of course, and he's going to have to take some medicine and so forth like this. He's been prevented from the issue of fasting from that type of catastrophe. So these two, the fasting is not on those two. And at that person's leisure, once he recovers, then he can make up his days at another time. Both the one who came close to drowning and the one who was burnt, he can make up his days at another time. The Shaykh, he goes to the next chapter, Al-Musafirun in Sha'a, Yuftar in Sha'a, Yusum. The one who's fasting, if he likes, Yuftaru, mean he can break his fast, and if he likes, he can keep his fast. It's up to him, the one who's traveling. We should understand traveling, Barakallahu fikum, can be understood in many ways. Some people understand a long trip is a travel from here to Mexico, from the U.S. to Mexico, from the United States to make Umrah. And some understand traveling going from one city to the next, even if they're doing it on a regular basis as a commute or a job or a truck driver. They understand that it's traveling, so Sheikh will deal with those two perspectives of traveling. As he mentioned, the traveler, he has the choice to keep or break his fast. He said, and this is even if he goes for a trip, it's considered long, like traveling to Umrah. He has the choice to keep or break his fast. أو دائما كأصحاب السيارات. نعم. دائما means always. Da'iman, the word da'iman means always. So the Shaykh said, in kana safar tawil kal safar ila al-umrah. If the person is going on a long trip, such as going to Umrah, he has the choice to keep or break his fast. That's the first level or type of traveler. And then the Shaykh mentions if the person is traveling kal ashab al-sayyarat, in kana دائما كالأصحاب السيارات. أصحاب السيارات, this means people who drive for a living, whether it be taxis, limousines, 18-wheelers, any type of cargo, any driving, the truck or vehicle. Then this is considered traveling, and the Sheikh said that person also has the ability to keep or break his fast with the condition. And that condition is in kana fi ghayri baladihim. And if they're other than in their town. If they're other than in their town, they have the choice. So a person who's just driving the taxi from the house to downtown, from the house to the airport, then we ask, does that person have the choice to keep or break his fast? No, because he didn't leave his balad, mean his town. But the person he's driving, barakallahu fikum, from his town 20 or 30 miles. If he looks back in the window or the rear view mirror, he can't see his town. Then this person is what's considered traveling, as a Sheikh said, al-Dawam, Ashab al-Sayyarat. He's from the people who are driving on a regular basis. Min ashab al-hujr, those people were driving the tractor trailers with the condition that he's leaving outside of his town. So, for example, if a person is traveling from Durham to Winston-Salem every day, that's his route. He's driving back and forth, back and forth. As long as he's traveling to Winston-Salem, he can break his fast. If a person is traveling from Barakallahu Fikum, from New Jersey to New York, or he's leaving Newark going to Barakallahu Fikum, Jersey City, he's driving cargo back and forth, then this is considered someone who's traveling. Or the one he is delivering something from one end of the state to the next. This is something the person is doing every day, and he's traveling. But is he leaving outside of his city? Is he leaving outside of his state? And will he remain outside of that city for the duration of the day of fasting? If it's a 5-minute trip, half-hour trip, an hour and a half trip, then that's different. But he's going to be traveling to that place and working there and coming back home when the fasting is going to be over. That person has the opportunity to choose if he's traveling from one town to another and he's going to be there working, unloading, that he keeps or breaks his fast as long as he is leaving outside of his town. Now, if Tirada saw him, the things that break the fast, the next chapter, the Shaykh mentions. The Shaykh says, لا يفترى الصائم إذا تناول لشيء جاهلا أو ناسيا أو كراهة. If the person does something that breaks the fast, if that person falls into something that normally will break your fast, but he did it on ignorance, he didn't know, the Sheikh said, La yuftir sa'im, then that one who's fasting, his fast is not broken, he should continue. If he does something on the scale of he forgot, then the Shaykh said, La yuftir sa'im, then that person doesn't break his fast. He continues his fast. And if he does something, hating to do it, but it's something that breaks the fast, then La yuftir sa'im, then the one who is fasting does not break his fast. He's going to mention some evidence for this. So you have 3 things. Out of ignorance, not knowing. Forgetfulness or disliking. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said in the last verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا, that means Allah is going to punish you. تُؤَاخِذْنَا, us. You're going to take us to task, hold us responsible. So Allah said to us to say to Him, رَبَّنَا, O Allah, لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا, do not take us, hold us accountable. إِن نَسِينَا, if we forget, أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا, or if we make a mistake. Here, make a mistake means you do something not knowing that you're doing something wrong. Or you do something that is wrong thinking is right. For example, if a person is eating, he doesn't know that Fajr is in. And we mentioned last time the statement of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, فَتَبَيَّنَ كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Allah said, and eat and drink until the white thread has been made distinct from the black. And we know when Mughira ibn Shu'bah came to the Prophet, no, not Mughira ibn Shu'bah, it was Adi ibn Abi Hatim came to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I put my thread, a white piece and black piece, tahta sawadi, under my pillow. And I kept looking and I couldn't see them. So, is this the meaning of eating until you can see the thread, the white from the black? And the Prophet told him no. The meaning of the verse, the white thread, means daw. Daw means light. And that's in Arabic. In English, dough means some flour and yeast that you make bread with dough. Here, dough in Arabic, it means light. So it said dough and nahar. Nahar means the daytime. Dough and nahari, the light that appears when night is leaving and it's becoming daytime. Allah said, eat until that's clear to you from the thread that's black, meaning the darkness of night. So when night starts to leave and it starts to turn, the least bit of lightness in the sky where you can tell, okay, it's morning time, that's when you stop eating. That's the first level. We said the second, Barakallahu fikum, is when you hear the adhan. When you hear the adhan, and the people are going to call the adhan when they can tell the day is appearing from the darkness of the night. And then the third we mentioned, at the iqama. These are the three levels of eating suhoor, that you eat until you can see that it's becoming fajr, or you eat until you hear the adhan, or you eat until the iqama. All three of these have been made clear from the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here, if a person doesn't know that it's fajr, he thinks he has a half hour, fajr isn't in, and he's going on the verse that when he knows it's fajr by looking, or when he hears the adhan, then he stops. Well, if he doesn't hear the adhan, like in many of our cases in the West, then he has to look at the clock, look at the sky, look at the calendar. So if he misreads the calendar, or he thinks that he has time and the time passes quickly and he's still eating, then this is an example of the first one. He's eating on ignorance. He thought that he had time, but he doesn't. This is akhta, as in the verse. And akhta now, or we make a mistake, meaning we do something wrong thinking that we're on point. So you continue your fast. You continue your fast. You forget, as this will happen with many people in the first few days of fasting, especially if you're used to a certain routine of eating at a certain time and eating certain things. You will pick something up and eat it or drink it, and then it will dawn on you, you're in the second day of Ramadan. You say, oh, subhanAllah, I forgot I'm fasting. So do you just make your whole sub with different types of cheeses and mustard and relish and say, oh well, nope. You continue your fast. This is an example of being a person who did something that normally breaks the fast on ignorance, number one. Doing something that normally breaks the fast on forgetfulness. And then the Shaykh is going to mention the third, disliking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَا وَقَلْبَهُ مُطْمَئِنَّ طَيِّبٌ. Except the one, he does something and he dislikes it while his heart is firm and clear upon iman and obedience to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. That's in Surah An-Nahl, Mi'atain was Sitta, 209. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala said in his noble book, وَلَا جُنَاهَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي مَا أَخْطَأْتُمْ بِهِ. And you will not be held accountable for what you do, thinking that you're right, but you're wrong. You're making a mistake. وَلَكِنْ بِمَا تَعَمَّدَتْ قُلُوبَكُمْ. But however, for what you intentionally do in your heart of wrong, you'll be held accountable for that. So this shows that if someone broke his fast, forgetting, or that person broke his fast, or that person did something forgetting, in his heart he really wanted to fast. He wasn't trying to play games, and he disliked the fact, oh man, I broke my fast. Then this is the second verse, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala said, except for the one, he dislikes it while his heart is firm upon doing what's right. His heart is firm upon Iman. And then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala's statement, Surah An-Nahl, you're going to be held accountable for what you do mistakenly, but for what you intentionally do, meaning of wrong, then you'll be held accountable for that. So those likes of the following verses that, or the previous verses, I should say, that we mentioned, or that the Shaykh mentioned in his book, is a proof for if you break your fast on ignorance, forgetting, or the third one he mentioned, hating to do it. And this is indicative of the one who does it on ignorance. He's not going to like the fact that he broke his fast. But this shouldn't make you say, I'm going to go ahead and eat then. And likewise, it shouldn't make you hard on yourself. Know that there's no sin on you. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will not hold you accountable if you do it on mistake or that you forgot. The Shaykh, he says, number 5, وَإِذَا أَكَلَ أَوْ شُرِبَ نَاسِيًا فَلَا يَطْبِطْ صَوْمٍ. And if the person eats or drinks forgetting due to forgetfulness, then his fast is not ruined. So the first thing, it seems as if the Shaykh is being redundant, but he's not. He's talking about the things to break the fast and how a person, if they do those things, that for that person there's no sin on him. Now the Shaykh is bringing, if a person eats or drinks, then that person should keep his fast. So you have two factors. The fast being broken and there's no sin on you. The fast being broken, but really in reality is not broken. Just keep fasting. You did something to break the fast, but it doesn't count. And you did something to break the fast, which would normally be a sin on you if you intentionally did it. But either forgetting or doing something on mistake, thinking that you were right, thinking that you were in accordance with whatever you were trying to achieve and in accordance to the guidelines of Islam, then you get a pass. And if you eat or drink on forgetfulness, then know that you should keep your fast. Now, the Shaykh, he adds and he says, and this is even if a person eats or drinks and he thinks that the sun has went down or he thinks that the Fajr has not come yet. Because some people think when it comes to those aspects of breaking the fast or starting the fast, you really blow it. And it's different from in the middle of the day when you just, I forgot. But the Shaykh is adding here, even if it means you break the fast too early, or that you started the fast too late, then in that case, the Shaykh is saying that person fast is good. That person fast is good, and it's like more details to the broader issue that he was talking about, the things that breaks the fast. And the Shaykh, he says, as an example, لأنه جاهل, because he didn't know. He thought that the Fajr wasn't in. Fajr was in 25 minutes ago. He's still eating. He's not held accountable. So therefore, it doesn't break his fast. And likewise, he breaks it early, thinking the calendar says 5:15, but that calendar is early. Then he looks outside and sees, wait a minute, this is not Maghrib. He keeps his fast, and there's no sin on him. And the Shaykh, he said, وَلَوْ تَمَضَّى, and tamadda means that he puts some water in his mouth. And you will find people doing this, and it's okay to do. To put water in your mouth because the mouth is dry, because it's hot. You want to rinse the mouth to refresh the mouth. It's okay. The Sheikh said if someone does this and some water goes down the throat on mistake, he didn't intend to drink, just to rinse, the Sheikh said his sawm is still sahih. It does not nullify the fast. Because again, we're talking about intention. Whether it's something happened unintentionally or someone did something on ignorance. And Sheikh, he said, لأنه غير متعمدا. متعمدا means he tried to. So it's a difference between someone getting a glass of water, looking around, no one's looking, and then he drinks it real quick. Then someone trying to rinse his mouth, and some water goes down his throat, and he didn't intend on drinking it, just to rinse it. It's a difference. The one who rinses his mouth and some goes down his throat, he keeps his fast, and it doesn't break the fast because he did not do it intentionally. And the Sheikh, he said, even if the person discharges ejaculation of sperm, has a wet dream in his sleep, then it does not affect his soul. لأنه غير مختار, because he did not choose to do that. It was not like he was having relations or doing something to make the discharge of sperm. He's not held accountable. He didn't do it intentionally, so therefore he keeps his fast. The Sheikh, he says, the 8th thing that breaks the fast. Al-Jima'. أولا al-Jima'. The first thing is al-Jima'a. Al-Jima'a. You have Jima'a and Jima'a. G with the kasra, with the G-E. G, like G-E, General Electric. G. Jima'a and Jima'a. Jima'a means to congregate, to be together, to be united. But Jima'a with kasra means relations between spouses. So Sheikh said, awwal shay, Jima'a. Having relations, entering the private part of a person, a husband and a wife being together. This is the first thing that breaks the fast. Now, he said that إذا وقع في نهار رمضان فيجب عليه الصوم. That person, he owes a day of fasting if he does it in the daytime of Ramadan. If he has relations with his spouse in the daytime of Ramadan, he owes that day. And the Shaykh, he said, بعد قضاء الصوم. He has to do qada. He has to, after he breaks that fast, he has to make it up at another time. And he has to do kafara. So for the one who breaks his fast intentionally with intercourse, he doesn't just have to make the day up at another time. He has to do kafara. And kafara is fatahrir ruqabah. Fatahrir ruqabah has to free a slave. There's no slaves, wallahu musta'an, although people do think this is something that we have today in Islam. Sex slaves and slaves in bondage and all of this. No. This it has nothing to do with, by the way, the Western slavery that people went through in America. And it was a part of all of the warfare. Except that when the non-Muslim, the kuffar, would fight, they would kill the captives, kill them all. Some of them, wallahu musta'an, they would torture. So Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed to the believers that when you fight, you don't kill them and you don't torture them, but you take them and you use them to do servitude work, things that you need, and you treat them nice, you take care of them, you feed them like this. And people would buy them, as this was the world commodity was built on the trade of humans. So people were buying slaves all over the world. And this Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knew it was dear to the human beings to have this type of commodity to have this type of power. And Allah Azza wa Jal also knew that it was something bad. So as a way to